Hello, my name's David Butcher, and I've been trying to teach people how to think to some extent, or how to make them think and look at a picture and see a different story than they saw originally. So this episode is for children 8 and up, and that includes children 69 years old too. And if you noticed in the first part of my sign here, I'm going the wrong direction, this side of the sign, it says 8 and up. So I figure anybody 8 or more years old should be able to understand what I'm trying to say. There may be some 8-year-olds that don't get it, but I know that I just told my doctor something the other day, and he's 50 and he thought it was funny. He had me tell his nurse what I told him. So, and this side of the sign is we're eating it up. So what I'd like to do today is I'd like to discuss a motion sensor would be my first topic that we want to discuss. And the first topic is, most people know what a motion sensor is. The most common one that I know of is on your house, and when you come up to the door or whatever, it turns a light on or rings your doorbell or does something because it's a motion detector. And it detects motion, and most even 8-year-olds know what that's about. But I kind of want to know if you know what your own motion detectors are. And that's why it's for 8 and up, because just to make children think of a different way, and adults too. But basically, what is our motion detectors? Well, for one thing, it's our eyes. We see and detect motion, movement. We decide that we see it all the time. And so we got 2 motion detectors built in. We don't have to do nothing. That's the very first thing we use as a brand new baby. That's the only thing that they can tell what's going on with is their eyes. They don't understand words yet. They don't understand language. They don't understand even emotions or whatever. They don't understand that stuff. But for the first year of their life, they look at everything. They pay attention to all movement, things that look different. And so that's what you use the first part of your life, and you don't know what the words mean yet, but you finally realize what dad is and what mom is and what food is and all the things that you learn growing up in that first year. And so now we've talked about 2 sensors or detectors that you have. Do you have any other motion detectors that you have? And on my situation there, I think your 2 ears are motion detectors too, because you hear motion, you hear movement, and it's getting closer, it makes a noise one way, and when it's going away, it makes another noise. So you got 2 more detectors that are built in, part of your subjects you hear all the time. And so, wow, a person didn't know that they have 4 detectors built in. Do you have any more? Well, I usually have another helper that's here to answer my question, but since they're not here today, we got to say, well, what other detectors are there? Well, I think there's 2 detectors, nostrils for smell. You can smell stuff. That's a detector that's built in too. Another detector that's built in is taste. What do you taste? That babies know about right away. You give them something sour and they pucker up right fast. They don't like it. Later on they learn to like sweets. And then, have I missed any other detectors? Oh, I do believe there's one more. I believe that detector is touch. When you touch or feel. So those are things that we're going to talk about today and try to figure out how we should use them and how we can go on. One of the things that I see is I'm a driver and I drive around Bremerton, and one of the things I see when people aren't using their detectors very well is I see people walking with their back to traffic. So when they're walking on the side of the road, what I learned as a young lad going to grade school was to walk facing traffic. So when you face traffic, you can at least see the car coming at you, and if he's swerving off the road or driving erratic, you can move off the road or get out of the way. I see too many people walking with their back to traffic and with their earphones in. So not only do their ears not work because they can't hear you, but their eyes are looking in the wrong direction, so they can't see you. So you have 4 detectors that you're given or born with that you're not using. And I've even seen people pushing strollers, and the mother has in her earphones and headphones, and she's got her back to traffic, and she's walking in the road. She ain't off the road, she's in the road. So I'm coming down Kitsap Way, which happens to be a local street, when the snow was here in the winter, and a guy was walking right in the middle of my lane with his back to traffic. If I'd have been doing anything and not paying real attention, I could have run over the guy. So I sat there and said, that is ridiculous, the guy doing that. So I pulled into the next street, called 911, and told him, there's a guy walking in the middle of my street, not paying any attention to traffic or what color of clothes he's got on or anything about it. He's not even trying to help the driver. He's relying totally on the driver's ears and eyes to be his safety measure. And so what I envisioned is, you know, I can understand the snow's got your road blocked, but I mean, at least face traffic and so you know what's coming at you instead of with your back to traffic. And the same goes for what color of clothes you wear. A lot of times I see people walking and they've only got on tennis shoes. That's the only way I know they're there. They got on black clothes, their face is away from you. So when your face is facing people, your eyes light up. They can see your face when the headlights are on. I mean, you got a chance of being discovered. If your back's to them, the back of your head doesn't have any clue that you're there for an average driver. I'm surprised we don't have more accidents than we do. And so that's one of the things that we use our detectors for. And so I just wanted to highlight those today in this episode. Welcome back to How Do You Think, or Make Yourself Think, or anything you want to call us. We're trying to make you open your mind up a little bit and look at the world in a different way than you looked at it before I started this show. Before we were talking about detectors, and I mentioned a motion detector. And one of the things I said that we had in our own body, we have a set of eyes that are motion detectors. Now, I made this sign that says look, and I made this other sign that says listen, which is the detectors that I've been talking about so far. Now, one of these things is, here's the motion, and then my eyes look back and forth at you, and we got another thing here that shows you motion came on too. So now we got lights, movement, and that detects our eyes. And if we were just looking at that sign and all there was this motion, we would detect it. One of the things that you detect when you're old and looking around is if you see a deer, he moves his ears and you pick that motion up, and that's how you see the deer first, because they're camouflaged so well, you don't necessarily see them. The same with other animals. It's their movement that catches your eye. And most all of us know what that is, and all of us have experienced it, even though we don't all think of it as a motion detector, and our eyes are motion detectors. Same with listening. You hear the train coming, the whistle blowing, or the tracks rattling, or whatever it is that you hear, traffic, cars, motorcycles, boats, you hear a lot of things and you detect motion. And you can tell by listening whether it's going towards you or away from you. It's pretty simple, but nobody really talks about it a lot until you're much later in studies in school. And what I want people to do is I want certainly young people to think, wow, I didn't know that I had a motion detectors or 4 motion detectors built right in that I had there. So what do you think about it? There may be other examples that you have about motion detectors or thinking or listening. So what do you think? I'm asking you, the audience, what do you think about today's discussion about motion detectors? So here we go again. You know, our look and our listen, our hearing and our eyes, that's motion detectors. And although our nose don't feel the motion much either as far as motion, but it is a detector. Certainly when we walk in the kitchen and Mom's cooking something, our smell works pretty good and lets us know that, yeah, it's detecting something there that smells mighty good. So, and then if we get to eat it, then we can tell whether it was as good as we thought when we smelled it or not. So anyway, those are our detectors, and glad that I could talk to you about a very simple thing that every human has. And animals have them too. Animals have eyes and ears and all that stuff to pick up the exact same things that we do. The only thing they don't is they don't have the same communication that we have, but they get along pretty good. Their communication works pretty good. They know how to communicate with each other of their same species. So that's our stuff for today on detectors. And I don't know what else to tell you, but I'd like you to think about detectors just a little bit and think about the ones you have built in that come with you from day one. And what you do all your life is you learn how to fine-tune those detectors so that they work better, work finer, are more perceptive of movement, more perceptive of smell, more perceptive. If you ever notice your parents or somebody else, they'll swirl a wine glass around and smell it just so they get the aroma of it before they even taste it. And I'm sure that if you like hamburgers or if you're a vegetarian or whatever you are, that you like food, that you've used your smell sensor quite a bit to figure out what that smells pretty darn good. I think I'd like to have some of that. So again, try to pay attention to your sensors and what they're telling you, because that's what they're for you to use, for you to perceive, and it's kind of what lets you keep track of what's going on in the world. I think that's pretty much the wrap up for this session. So thanks for coming to What Do You Think? And think, what do you think? What's your story? I'm done for today on this subject.